So today we're going to be breeding some Danios in these buckets. This is a project I've done before. I've never done it with this fish, but I just recently did a video breeding some minnows in a bucket. Basically today we're going to do the exact same thing, but I wanted to try it with the Danios and see if it would work. I'm 99% sure it's going to work because they're equally as easy to breed as minnows. But today I've got 3 buckets here set up. I've got some nylon mesh, some coconut fiber, and 3 different types of Danios. And we're going to see if we can't get some eggs and some babies, and I'm going to take you guys through the whole process of how to do this. So I thought this is just a fun, easy project for people at home to do. If you're new to the hobby and you want to get into breeding and you don't have a lot of space, you can definitely do this with, the bare minimum materials. And you could theoretically, if you did water changes, grow these fish all the way up to a size that you can put them back into your tank. It's kind of cool for that. Danios are super easy. A lot of research facilities actually use zebra Danios for genetics testing, and this is because they're so easy to reproduce, so they can make millions of them, and they're pretty much guaranteed to get babies every time they want to breed them. So I've gone ahead and selected out a few different groups. Over here, I've got zebra Danios, I've got longfin leopard Danios, and I've got pearl Danios, which I think are really, really cool. When it comes to sexing Danios, when you're at the store, females are a lot more plump than the males. Males are slender. I think males have kind of deeper colorations. I'll flash up some photos of kind of what to look for, but it's pretty easy. You're probably best off to buy a group of 5, try and pick out 3 males and 2 females, and that should be a really good breeding group. Today, I've gone for reverse trios in 2 of my containers. And then I've just gone for a little bit of a group spawn in one of them. So I've got 3 zebra Danios, 3 leopard Danios, and 5 pearl Danios. And with the zebras and the leopards, I've done 2 males per female. And this is because I really want the males to be interested in breeding. And I want the males to be constantly pursuing that female tomorrow morning when they breed, annoying her and getting her to lay her eggs. Because if you add too many females and not enough males, the males aren't going to know who to breed with, and it kind of doesn't work as well. So more males is actually better than more females. The way they breed is they scatter their eggs. So that's why we've got this nylon mesh. Males will chase females and they'll spawn, they'll scatter their eggs over some rocks and some moss or whatever. Basically, they'll just turn around and eat those eggs. So we need to find a way to separate those eggs out, which is why this nylon mesh is going to be really, really good. It's currently lunchtime here and I'm setting these up to settle in today, and the lights are going to go out in the fish room tonight. They spawn first thing in the morning. So right at dawn, they'll start spawning. So the second these lights are on tomorrow morning, the males will wake up, look at the females and think it's time to go. So that's how we're going to set them up. Here, I've got, these are 20-litre buckets. I've probably put about 15 litres in each one. This is all just tap water, so it's aged tank water. The pH of this is probably about 7.2, and the TDS would be about 180 to 200 parts per million, but it's really not an issue. These are super easy fish to breed, and you don't really need to play around with the water parameters. You just need nice, stable water. What I'm going to do is in each of these buckets, I'm just going to put the nylon mesh in, kind of messy, like this. It doesn't need to be super neat for these species. They're really not fussy. And I'm just gonna kind of make a little bit of a breeding basket. So I'll just push this in, fray it out a little bit. You can see, you can get nylon mesh from most of your arts and crafts stores. It's not too hard to find. You could also do this with other materials, but I find that this nylon mesh is great because what's gonna happen, we're gonna add our Danios in here with the coconut fiber. They're gonna go spawn with each other and the eggs are gonna fall right through that mesh and they're not gonna be able to turn around and eat them. So that's why we're adding this. Cool. So from there, these are all set up. The next step is to add some of this coconut fiber. I just take it straight out of the packet and add it in. I just add like a little ball in the corner of some of that nylon mesh. And what'll happen is they'll go swim over here, go and spawn over there. So you don't even need much of this really. You can use moss or other things, but this is just what I had on hand. All right, so they're all set up. Now, before it comes time to spawning your fish, you're gonna wanna condition your fish up. I've had these in the shop and we feed them tons of live baby brine shrimp and frozen foods all the time, so they're pretty much always conditioned. But you're going to want to take them from the store and give them a good week at home before you try and breed them. And I'd recommend feeding them some frozen foods, so frozen brine shrimp. I feed them bug buffet. That really does get them in the mood to breed because it's high protein. Just fatten them up. You'll see the females will get nice and plump. And when you see the females plump and full of eggs, it's time to go. I'm just going to add these fish in now. We'll add the leopard Danios in here. So add the leopard Danios there. We'll put the pearl Danios in the middle one. Like that, and the zebras, which I think are really, really cool, in the end bucket. That's literally it for the setup. That's all you need to do. What I'm going to do is leave these guys for the rest of the day. I'm not going to feed them. I'm just going to leave them in these buckets overnight. Tomorrow morning, they should start spawning. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. We'll check for some eggs, see if they didn't breed. But that's it for day 1. Okay, so it's actually 2 days later. I let the Danios go for an extra day just to make sure that they actually bred. I've seen them playing around. I've seen them, I think, spawning. Today we're going to find out. So what I'm going to do is start taking this coconut fiber out of all of these containers, and then we'll remove the fish and see if we got eggs. Longfin leopards. And then we'll get the pearl Danios. This is the easy thing. You can just pull it straight out. Makes it so easy to catch these fish. Perfect. So I've removed all the fish. Now I'm going to take them back, add them to the original tanks they're in, and we can check for eggs. Okay, so the way I'm going to check for eggs is I'm just going to pipette the bottom and see if I can't suck anything up. I don't know if there's anything in this longfin leopard one. Okay, let's have a look in the pearl Danios. Maybe this didn't work. Try another tactic. Let's see. Oh, there's heaps of eggs in this first one. There's heaps. And some of them look fertilized, so that's a really good sign. So there's definitely eggs in the zebra Danio container. Check this one. I don't think there's any eggs in the pearl Danio one. I might need to retry those. Weird. And no eggs in the longfin leopard. That's kind of funny. I feel like, I don't know why it didn't work with the longfin leopards if it worked with the zebra Danios. It definitely, like, there's heaps of eggs in the zebra Danio bucket. So, I mean, we've done them successfully. There's none in the pearl Danios either. I'm going to retry these two off camera and get them to work and report back. But I'm probably just going to do them in pairs. See if that doesn't work. I'm going to find like a really gravid female and like a nice brawn male and see if the pairs doesn't work better. But yeah, I'll let you guys know how the progression goes with all the project, but we do have a spawn in the zebra Danio, so it does work. This is the thing with breeding. You do need to put some effort in sometimes and try a little bit harder. It's not always easy, and that's kind of the fun of it, because like it's really rewarding to get this, but if I can get these two to go, I'll be like super satisfied. So disappointing and exciting. Okay, so it's been a few days since we got the eggs from our zebra Danios, and they've all started to hatch. So we've got tons of these little wrigglers around the bucket. Today we're going to be adding a few things to this bucket to help the whole process of breeding them in here go along. I did set up more pairs in these additional buckets with the pearl Danios and the longfin leopards. I'm just going to cut this out of the project because these fry are going to be way too tiny compared to these ones now. They're like already a week behind. So this is actually a good example to show you that these projects don't always work. And if I left only the zebra Danios successfully spawning in, then you guys would think, oh, this is like foolproof. Sometimes it doesn't work, even with these super easy species. So I'm just going to cut them out. We'll raise these zebra Danios up. I'll be happy with that. So what we're going to add is some live plant. This is just some foxtail, and I've been using this in tons of my little breeding projects lately, and it's just a floating plant. I'm just going to add it to our bucket like this. The reason I've been using this is it grows rapidly, and it gives the fry a place to swim around, but it's also covered in some infusorias that are going to start to culture in this bucket, and I found just adding this stuff is super beneficial to a lot of my breeding. So every time I've got like little fry free swimming, I add some kind of plant like this. The other thing I'm going to add is some mystery snails. So I've just got some different size mystery snails here. I've done some really, really small ones. I'm just going to add these to the bucket, and I add these after the eggs have hatched and they've started to like almost free swim. And the reason I add them at this stage is because they'll actually eat eggs. They won't eat fry. What these snails are going to do is help keep the bucket clean, because they're going to go around and eat all the leftover food and all the eggs that didn't hatch as well in here, and they're going to stop basically ammonia from spiking in here. They significantly help a lot of the little projects that I do as well. So after I've got free swimming fry, I always add some kind of mystery snail or detritivore to help with the breakdown of the waste in the tank. At this stage, these should start free swimming tomorrow, where we can give them their first meal. And I'll show you guys exactly how I do that. This is what I do at this stage. Okay, so it's been another couple of days and we're back here with the Danios, and they've all started to free swim. Today we're going to be giving them their first meal, and for their first meal I'm going to be feeding them some bug buffet. I crush this up into like a nice fine powder in the bucket, and normally that's good enough to feed them. They're pretty tiny fry, but I'm pretty sure they're going to take it. All I do is get a pellet of it, and then I'll just like either crush it on the surface like this, or I'll mix it up into like a little bit of a milk in the bucket like this. And this is why we add those snails, because those snails are going to clean up all these little particles that the Danios don't eat and stop the bucket from turning foul. So I'll do this in the morning. I'll do this as many times as I can pretty much throughout the day, especially for the first few days. If you guys work, I'd recommend doing it before you go to work, the second you come home, and then right before you go to bed. That's how many times I'd feed them. It's better to feed a really little amount often than it is to feed a lot in one go. Because they've only got tiny bellies, they really only need to eat like 1 or 2 particles. So a little does go a long way. I don't feed them until I start seeing them legitimately free swimming along the top. And that's when I know that it's time to start feeding. So there's probably only about 30 or 40 in here. That's still quite a lot of fish if you guys want to breed them in a bucket. I can see them starting to take onto the particles, so this should work pretty well. In a few days, I'm going to upgrade their food to some brine shrimp, but they're way too small to be eating that at the moment. So we're just going to get them through on particles of bug buffet. Yeah, they're looking really, really cute. There's a few that are still not free swimming yet, but a lot of them have started to attach as well to this floating plant. That's also why this is really, really useful. But yeah, I'll keep you guys updated with how it goes. Alrighty, so it's a few days later. Today, I'm going to try and feed these little zebra Danios some baby brine shrimp. So I've been feeding them the bug buffet the whole time. They've been doing pretty good. I've been feeding it once in the morning and once in the arvo. This isn't a huge batch of fish. Normally when I breed something like this, I'd expect to have hundreds, but there's probably a good 30 to 50 in there. And I'd still call that a success for breeding some fish in a bucket. I hatch baby brine shrimp out here in the fish room on a daily basis. I've got videos on the channel on how to hatch out baby brine shrimp. It's super easy, and I reckon everyone should do it, especially if you're trying to breed fish, because these little guys, well, these guys are a little marine organism that you can buy. Sam, do you mind? He's eating a rock. Stop it. You buy brine shrimp as eggs and you hatch them out. They're basically sea monkeys, and you can hatch them out on demand. And because they're a marine organism, they don't transfer any diseases to freshwater organisms. The other thing too is because they jerk around in the water, they really stimulate the fish to eat, and they're full of protein, so they make the fish grow really well. So you could theoretically feed these guys bug buffet until they're adults. With the brine shrimp, more of them are going to survive, more of them are going to grow quicker, and they're just going to do a whole lot better. All I'm going to do is put this along the surface of the water like this, and these little guys are going to start jerking around in the water, and they'll swim in the water for about 6 hours before they die because they need to be in salt water to survive. But they'll survive in the fresh water for 6 hours. And what that's going to do is if you feed this in the morning, they're going to get like 6 hours of feeding versus getting the initial feeding of bug buffet and then waiting another 6 hours before their next meal. So they can graze on these brine shrimp all day. I try not to overfeed it because they only need to eat 1 or 2 at this small size. And a lot of those brine shrimp that I just put in there are going to go to waste. But that's why we have the snails in there to clean up the dead brine shrimp and the leftover bug buffet. So I'm going to let them grow a little bit more before we finish up the video, just to show you guys, you know, their growth. But at this stage, I would start feeding them brine shrimp, and you're going to see their growth rapidly increase from here. It's been, I think, a week since we last looked at the zebra Danios, and I've been growing them out. I'm going to wrap the video up here. You can see here we've got our little result. I think I did a little count up and we only ended up with 11 babies. This is kind of a fail in my opinion. This is such an easy fish to breed, and normally I'd expect to get way more fry than this, like probably in the thousands. So to end up with 10 of something so easy is a little bit, I guess, humiliating, but at the same time, I don't really care. I'm going to post this video anyways just to show you guys that it did work. I think I'm just going to try and do this experiment again at some point. I also wanted to show you that sometimes things don't always go to plan. This is an easy fish to breed, but just because it's an easy fish to breed doesn't mean that it's always going to work. Yeah, the fry are quite big now, and they haven't got any little zebra stripes yet, but what we're going to do is just add them to another grow out tank, and they're going to, you know, reach adulthood within a month or so. Yeah, a little bit of a fail, but at the same time, it's technically a success. So yeah, take what you want out of this video, but at the end of the day, it was still fun to do. We still ended up with babies, and it might be worth you guys having a go at home. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.